With the summer solstice right around the corner, I figured it's high time I get to work making the summer clothes I've been planning so that I'll have plenty of time to actually wear them while they're in season. First up is this lovely periwinkle cotton that I unfortunately didn't have very much of, but I was sure I could at least squeeze a little pair of shorts out of them, something lightweight and breezy to wear around the house on those unbearably hot days. I did, however, have to forego adding pockets due to the shortage of fabric, and I don't have anything similar enough to match with it. After putting together the main body of the shorts, I trimmed the hem on each leg so that it curved up a bit at the outside seam. Using the tiny bit of remaining fabric, I cut 2 long strips, each 2 inches wide, to make ruffles. I finished the bottom of these strips with a rolled hem to reduce the amount of fabric lost, but I actually like the effect it creates with the white against purple. I then gathered the ruffles and attached them to the bottom of the shorts. When making the waistband, I cut a piece of elastic just barely the same as my waist measurement, as it will get stretched slightly in the next steps. I folded down the top of the shorts to make the elastic casing, pulled the elastic through and connected the ends, then I further secured the elastic within the casing by top stitching 2 parallel lines all the way around while holding the elastic and the fabric taut. Lastly, I was feeling like the leg openings were a bit more flared than I wanted, so I played around with adding elastic there as well, just using some decorative elastic I had in my stash. I first tried gathering the entire leg opening by attaching a band of elastic with a slightly smaller circumference, pulling the elastic taut as I sewed around the opening so that it would bunch up when released. On the other side, I tried gathering only the outer half of the leg opening using the same method. The fully gathered side looked a little crazy to me and wasn't very comfortable, so I went with the half gathered option. I wasn't sure about the ruffles at first, but they are growing on me. If I decide later on that I don't like them, it wouldn't be too hard to remove. For now though, I think these will be perfect for around the house on really hot days or even as pajama shorts. Perhaps down the road I'll be able to find a similar colored fabric and add in some pockets too. Next on the chopping block is this crazy patterned skirt that I thrifted last summer. I'm still not really sure why I did, but here we are, so I might as well make something with it. So to start working on altering this skirt into something, I pulled out this pattern that I thrifted, thinking that I would turn it into this nice little halter dress here. More than half of the pattern pieces just aren't there, particularly the pattern pieces for the design that I want. The only thing that is left is this middle style of halter dress, which I don't want to do, and then the pattern pieces for the skirt, which I also don't want to do. And this is why I refuse to pay more than like 50 cents for thrifted patterns, because you just never know what you're gonna get. The number of times that I've bought a pattern and like several very crucial pieces are missing. Now that being said, I have thrifted many patterns that have been completely all there, everything that I needed was there, and it's been a great find, but I just don't want to take that risk. So anyway, yeah, that's more than a bit disappointing. So usually what I do when this happens and I don't want to keep or use the pattern pieces that are left is I will just mark very clearly on the front of the packaging what is left. Like I put an X over the designs that are not here and circled the ones that are. That way, if I redonate it, whoever gets it next will know what they're getting. I'm thinking I might still be able to schmooze the pattern that I want out of the pattern pieces that are left, because if I look at the shape of the pieces, the front of dress C is piece 9. I'm wondering if I can still schmooze that shape out of what I have. I feel like I can kind of make a guesstimate. I might try. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm just including this to say thrifting patterns can be wonderful and a great money-saving thing, but there is always the risk that pieces are missing. That's always a huge risk. Okay. Anyway, Leah, let's get a move on. With my initially intended pattern pieces missing and another honest look at how much fabric I realistically had to work with, I decided to pivot my plan a bit. So while I had been thinking about just shaping this down into a little dress, I think realistically I would get more use out of a halter top or some little fun pattern top for the summer. It's just kind of a lot of pattern and a lot of color. I'm more likely to wear a little top with like a pair of shorts or something. So I'm going to try using one of the few pattern pieces I have from that thrifted pattern set. So I'm going to start by opening this up on the side so that I can utilize the full sheet of the fabric. I used the only shirt pattern piece that was left as a guide to cut out the front of my halter top from the front of the skirt fabric, then did the same to cut out the back of the top on the back piece of the skirt fabric, since the back pattern piece was also missing. I ended up trimming both of these down quite a bit, as the initial cut using the pattern was much too large, especially for a stretch fabric. I traced my halter front piece to create the facing using the remaining fabric from the back of the skirt. Then I used the few scraps that I had to create extensions for the halter straps. It can be surprising sometimes how much fabric is needed for a seemingly small garment. I hardly have any scraps left after this. I stay stitched the neckline of both the front and front facings, then created elastic casings along the bottom of the facing and the top of the back of the shirt. From there, I stitched together the front and back of the shirt, right sides together, before attaching the facing by placing it over the back, right sides together with the front. These I stitched together along the entire length of the neckline and halter ties, leaving the ties open at the very ends. I clipped and notched the curves before turning everything right sides out. There were then some adjustments I had to make. The elastic in the front facing was pulling at the side seams in a weird way, so I opened up the elastic casing and moved the elastic band about an inch inward on each side away from the side seam. I also wanted the neckline a bit lower as it was sitting at an awkward spot. I flipped the facing back out and moved the neck opening a bit lower, cutting away some of the excess fabric and redoing the clips and notches. I also understitched the opening several inches up either side and top stitched a couple inches on either side of the point of the opening so that it would keep its shape. The back was also still too loose, so I opened up the elastic casing at the center and removed a chunk from the center of the elastic band, then connected the loose ends of the elastic and sewed the casing closed again. To finish everything up, I closed up the ends of the halter ties by just folding in the fabric and stitching it together. Then I trimmed the hem of the shirt just a bit to make it ever so slightly cropped. I finished my new hem by just folding the fabric under once and securing it with a zigzag stitch, which I find so much easier and just as effective as using a twin needle. While I don't foresee myself wearing this super frequently, I think this top will be perfect for when I just want something a little bit more fun to wear, perhaps to wear on vacation or to a backyard cookout. The last item I had time to tackle for this video was attempting to squeeze a skirt out of this yard of linen that I was gifted. I wanted something simple but sturdy that I can work in the garden in. I wanted to have a slanted yoke front waistband and also wanted to try adding an adjustable lace-up closure instead of elastic or a zipper. It quickly became apparent, however, that the pattern I had planned to use as my guide wasn't going to work out, so I was left to wing it. I did use the bottom of the bodice front pattern piece to create the shape of my waistband, which I cut out first. I then made the curve of the remaining piece of fabric a bit more gradual since this part will be gathered. I initially did not plan to cut the remaining piece of fabric any further, but I wanted side seam pockets, so I cut the fabric in half to create 2 back skirt panels and 1 large front panel. Since I had absolutely no fabric to spare for pockets, I cut them from some old linen napkins in my scrap stash. I figured the fabric is the same fiber and the color is close enough that it won't stick out too badly. After attaching the pockets and connecting the side seams, I gathered the top edge of the skirt, then set it aside to work on the waistband. First, I used a very scientific, very professional method to cut the waistband to the size I needed. This is totally legit, I definitely know what I'm doing. I used the pieces cut off from the waistband to make a panel that would be used for the back closure, which I set aside for later. Because I was short on fabric, I had to add a panel of a different colored linen to complete the back side of the waistband, but it's going to be on the inside where no one will see it, so it works just fine. I then added interfacing before adjusting the gathers of the skirt and attaching it with right sides together to the front of the waistband. I basted these together first, just in case I needed to make adjustments around the point of the yoke front, then secured it with a tighter stitch. I folded in and basted the back edges of the skirt, then folded over the back of the waistband to the inside, securing it by stitching in the ditch. Then it was time to tackle the back closure. I first attached the panel I had made to one side a little more than an inch in from the edge, stopping a few inches before I reached the bottom of the panel. I then closed up the back of the skirt and stitched the split point of these 2 skirt back pieces onto the panel to strengthen that point. After finishing the hem, the last step was to add my eyelets at the back for the lace-up closure. Pre-cutting the holes for these always takes the longest. I gotta be honest guys, I don't love this as much as I had hoped. I do love how the waistband turned out. I think the yoke front looks so good and the lace-up closure isn't too shabby for a first attempt at an adjustable closure like this. But the shape of the body of the skirt feels awkward. I think this is partially because of how stiff the linen is, and yes, I did iron it, but it just loves to wrinkle, but also because of how little fabric I had to work with. I might try slashing the bottom of the skirt and inserting some panels of a different linen to give it a bit more movement. I still have several more pieces of clothing I'd like to make myself for the summer, so I'll most likely have a part 2 for this in a month or so make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Leave a rain emoji down in the comments if you're still here. I don't know about you guys, but we've been getting so much rain lately, I feel like I live in a swamp. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you when I see ya. Bye!